Oh boy, this is why we can't have nice things. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Yep, we've got another one of them hacked up Les Pauls, but we haven't seen one exactly like this before. Going through my feed, this thing caught my attention because it's like, is that Frankenstein bolts going on? But then when I clicked on it, oh no, this is not some fancy art piece, that's just a giant pickguard. We don't have a bridge pickup anymore. The whole thing is a lefty now, reduced down to just 2 volume controls. And if all that wasn't bad enough, it's an EMG pickup. Now there's nothing wrong with those in the right genre, but typically Gibson purists hate active electronics in their Gibsons. So my first thought was maybe this didn't start life as a lefty and it needed a conversion job and this was their best idea for that. And maybe this portion of the pickguard was hiding the old cutaway and they gave it the double cut. But no, surprisingly enough, we do have the wood there. This started life as a lefty. And judging by our headstock, looks like it's in the early to mid 70s. Judging by the back, we've got the Gibson branded Kahler tuner, so that makes this the earliest it could be 1975. However, if you zoom in right here to the 15th fret, you can tell it's got the 25th anniversary inlay. Now that was specifically for 1974, but they had a lot of those to use up. We have absolutely nothing else to go off of on this guitar, seeing as all the original electronics have been gutted for the EMGs. But now it's time for everyone's favorite part. What's under the pickguard? Brace yourselves, this one's pretty crazy. Oh boy, okay. Ouch. Well, to start, we've got screw holes everywhere from our new pickguard covering everything over. You can see where the original toggle switch hole would be. Normally, a Les Paul custom husk from this era would look something like this. You got a humbucker route, a second one in the bridge, you got your ABR1 studs, you've got the nice maple. Then we come back over here and you can tell somebody converted it to a giant swimming pool route, and then they decided to do some additional routes all the way over here, completely open everything up. And then if you want to make matters even better, there was a Kahler on this at one point in time. And trust me, that was not factory stock. Now usually, here's where the story ends. We don't know the true tale. However, according to the seller, SS Vintage in Chicago, Illinois, they purchased this from somebody claiming to be the original owner. And apparently the story goes is his brother at one point in time when they were younger accidentally kicked this thing off of its stand and the headstock broke. That's right, if you know to look for it, you can tell there is a headstock crack there. So now I'm curious, is the black finish even original? Because that looks pretty good. But since it had that repair, he decided he wanted to further customize it because he hated this thing being so heavy. So all of this was for weight reduction. Took too much wood out though, had to add a little bit more in for stability. And then for whatever reason, he decided to go with the EMG 89 humbucker in the neck and just not have a bridge. Maybe he's more of a jazz guy. My best guess is things might have changed throughout the history of this guitar because that doesn't mention anything about the Kahler out here, so he did some other modifications to this. I mean, that's an old EMG there. That's like original era, late 70s, early 80s, so that's probably when most of this happened. Wouldn't surprise me had they had gotten this used and it wasn't all that expensive, but still pretty expensive. We've got the transitional neck tenon. I mean, you can see the maple top joining onto the mahogany body, but this would technically have the pancake body, so they probably went straight through that too. So is it functional? Yes. Do lefty guitarists have very limited options when it comes to vintage guitars? Yes. So with all that in mind, they decided to tag it at nearly $4,000. I mean, at that point, I think you'd be better off going over here. Now granted, keep in mind a 76 will have the maple neck rather than the mahogany of what we were just looking at. So it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but this is a much better value for the money. Or maybe this one wouldn't be too bad. Filling in a middle pickup route and a mini toggle switch is a lot easier than what we're gonna have to do to this one if you wanted it to look semi-what normal. Now, I'm far from a luthier, but I think the easiest way to fix this would be to separate the maple top from the rest of the body and then just completely replace that. You would still have a chambered guitar then, but you wouldn't have to deal with this doofy pickguard. And that's if you're looking to keep as much of the guitar as possible. The easiest solution would just be taking that neck off, slapping it on a new body. Or the easiest thing to do would just be wire it up with whatever pickups that you do want and enjoy it as is. I think that's your best route here. But in my opinion, it's really not worth touching at that price. We could be fair and say, yeah, steam the neck off, everything's good there. You can probably get about $1,200 for a legit custom neck from that era for a restoration project. But the issue is the headstock repair. So, I mean, that might be worth $400 to $600 to someone. I mean, the tuner's top value is about $200 for a set of those, but some of the screws have been replaced. I'm sure that EMG pickup might be worth $100 or something. So if somebody was asking me, what do I think this is worth to somebody, I would say probably in the $1,500 ballpark range. But regardless of how you feel about it, it's always fun to see these things show up. Nobody's gonna do that today. That had to have happened in the past. But we still got some fun, tasty treats tonight. Like, look at this vintage Kahler new old stock red bridge. I didn't even realize that they had made these. Maybe they didn't. I don't know anything about it. You tell me. I do know, looking at this lock nut style, it's likely a late 80s unit, because Gibson used that on like the SG Elites. So you're talking 1988, 1989-ish. But I'm used to seeing these in chrome, so seeing just straight up red was pretty fascinating, including the red bar. He's asking $900 if you want to make him an offer and throw it on that custom. But on the topic of vintage trems being retrofitted onto guitars, this one threw me for a loop. Everin over in Armenia has a 76 reissue Explorer from 2001, but he was brazen enough to actually put a very rare 80s Gibson Tremolo on it. So in the 80s, there's 3 different types of trems that they use stock. There's the Super Tune Vibrola, which is your stock Kahler that we were just looking at. There's the Master Tune, and then the Pro Tune. So this is the Pro Tune. It's similar to a Kahler, but I believe Schaller made them and it's got the Gibson branding. This version requires a very similar route out of your body to do it, whereas the Pro Tune does not. It looks like this. It's a big clunky thing. So I was shocked that a 2000s era guitar would actually be current day routed out for one of these vintage trems. You definitely don't see that every day, and he was talking in his description that he paid $400 for that thing. I just don't want somebody to see this in the future and be like, oh, limited edition. Oh, it must be because they put this crazy trem on it. Nope, not at all. I was shocked to see this thing show up again. It's my old bigger red. We had just said goodbye to this thing. I traded it away as part of how I got the first super custom ever made. So the story was he just wanted a guitar to have when he occasionally plays it, and apparently he didn't like this one because it quickly got traded off to somebody else. It probably comes down to the lacquered fretboard. It's unique. It's not for everyone. But that red Kahler would look pretty sweet on that. Or perhaps on this SG VooDoo. We've talked about these things before, but I wanted to share this one because it's been heavily road worn, so the black satin finish has been completely rubbed off in many areas, giving it kind of a cool evil vibe. They threw a black and red sticker on it. The finish has been completely played and or sanded off the neck, and the neck is being held on by cable ties. Just kidding. I think that's, at least I hope, we can see some sort of a headstock repair there. That might have just been part of the stand. And even the case is heavily worn. He's asking $1,250 on that. Next up for things that I found on the internet, a custom shop Adam Jones Flying V. We did review one of these if you happen to have missed it, but this one's listed at a $6,000 premium. And I think the reason being is this is the one that has the picture on the back. So 18 of them got that, and so far I've only seen photos of 3 show up. So I would like to at least document that for the internet, have all 18 on a nice web page so we can appreciate them. So if you happen to own one of these, check the back of your COA, see if you got the lucky photo, and please email it to me, because that's important history, and I'm just curious what they all are. I kind of like this one, Space Skeleton on Fire. And it's one of those times where I agree, the ones with the photos on the back are worth more. Now, how much more are they worth? We'll have to let time tell. And speaking of unique guitars, this one showed up again. It's the Ticket to Ride Les Paul Elegant. We talked about this one a couple of months ago. But essentially, there was a collector guy who went to all these cool classic shows, and he had Gibson create a memorabilia piece for him. But when we had dissected it, we essentially found out it's a Les Paul Elegant spec'd guitar that's been chambered out, but it's got the custom fretboard on it, although they left the headstock alone. And it's got a white stinger. And if I remember correctly, the GS stands for his initials, and it was done up in 2004. This time it's listed for $5,500. Then to wrap up tonight's episode, we've got one over in Japan. Gibson Moderne XL from 2019. It's listed by Ishibashi, a Japanese company. This Moderne just happens to have the flame figuring within the body, which transforms the entire vibe of this model. I'm honestly not that big of a fan of Modernes. Especially not this version with the Futura style headstock. But it looks like maybe even a little bit of movement in that mahogany neck. Like if you're gonna own one, you might as well have a cool one. Although I'm surprised that made it to Japan, because I'm pretty sure that was a US dealer exclusive. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.